Hello. Welcome to our session covering Google Desktop Gadgets. Nice to see everyone here. My name is Mihai Ionescu, and I'm an engineer with the Google Desktop team. I'm very excited to be here today and talk about a subject that's getting more and more attention these days. So gadgets, 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 you hear the word about 100 times today, and I'll probably hear it another 100 times from me. So please raise your hand if you use desktop gadgets on your computer. Wow, quite a lot of people. Keep your hand raised, please, if you use Google Desktop Gadgets on your machine. OK, more people than I expected. Keep your hand raised if you ever developed a desktop gadget. All right, that's great. So after this talk, I'm sure that you'll know more about desktop gadgets, the benefits they offer, and you'll agree with me that they are really cool. And I'm sure quite a few of you will go ahead and actually start writing some gadgets for yourself. So what's the big fuss about gadgets? Well, as you can see from these quotes, gadgets, also known as widgets, have been getting a lot of attention lately. On one hand, they get a lot of attention from users. Users like the gadgets because they can customize them, and they can tailor them to meet their specific needs and preferences. On the other hand, gadgets get a lot of attention from developers. We can count individual developers and startups all the way to established companies and large content providers. They all see gadgets as a way to provide more content, and they often see gadgets as something offering them new possibilities. And Newsweek went as far as proclaiming 2007 as the year of the gadget, noting that there's a lot of content out there that's waiting for better ways to be personalized and customized. So all good. Everyone is gaga about gadgets. But what exactly is a gadget? And in particular, what is a desktop gadget? That's what we're going to talk about it today. So during the presentation, I will try to answer such questions. Looking over the agenda, we'll start with a brief introduction to desktop gadgets, and then we'll discuss some of the benefits of using and developing desktop gadgets. Then we'll look at some gadget internals, see what it takes to implement a simple gadget. Then I'll show you some advanced API that you can use in your application to create more feature-rich gadgets. We'll finish with some pointers to developer resources and some key takeaways for developers. We'll have a Q&A session at the end. We'll try to answer as many questions as we can. If there are unanswered questions, we have a demo station in the main hallway. Please stop by. There are going to be a lot of Google Desktop team members there to answer your questions and demo other gadgets. So what exactly is a gadget? And in particular, a Google Desktop gadget. So the short generic definition for a gadget is a specialized mini application that runs in a web page on a desktop. At Google, we have two such types of gadgets: universal gadgets and desktop gadgets. You can think of universal gadgets as mini web application and desktop gadgets as mini desktop application. The line is getting more blurred. They're very similar. Both of them have really simple programming models. All you need to know is JavaScript and simple HTML or XML. And they serve similar purposes. There are a few differences. For example, universal gadgets run in a web page, but they require an online connection. Now, with the introduction of Google Gears, that probably won't be the case anymore. But for now, they still need an online connection. Desktop gadgets, on the other hand, require Google Desktop to be installed, but they can work offline, and they can take advantage of the underlying functionality of the client machine that they are running on. So for the rest of this presentation, we'll focus on desktop gadgets exclusively. So let me do a brief demo of what Google Desktop can do and why users like desktop gadgets. So desktop gadgets can be hosted in the sidebar or you can actually move them out of the sidebar and place on the screen. As you can see, for this particular gadget, it can change shape and be in a minimized state on the sidebar and present more information once you take it out. If you want more screen space and you don't really need all the gadgets that are currently in the sidebar, you can minimize the sidebar and keep on the screen only the gadgets you're interested in. If you want to add a gadget that's minimized, you can actually click on the gadget icon here and get to a list of gadgets and add additional gadgets. If you want to show all your gadgets, we have a shortcut key, which is Shift-Shift. And if you do that, all your gadgets will pop up on the screen. Shift it again, Shift again, and they will disappear. Now you can pin a gadget to be permanently on the screen. For example, let's pick the flower pot. And place it on the screen. Now you can hide the others, the flower pot is still there. You can collapse your gadget and it will be in a minimized state. So you can save more screen space or you can expand it. Now a nice feature is that once you're done with the gadget, you can actually close it and then you can add a new one. To add new gadgets, you go to our Add Gadgets panel, where we have hundreds of gadgets. Some on the left-hand side, you can see some major categories, but of course, this is Google, so we do search for gadgets. So let's say you want to add some games. Well, that's lots of games. Maybe we can narrow it down. So let's say we want to play chess. OK, we have some chess games here. Let's say you want to add some TV gadgets. Well, there are quite a few TV gadgets. I'm going to try to add this one. Adding is just one click away, and this one immediately pulls some live feeds from the space station, and we can actually see an astronaut doing some repairs. Actually, it also has sound. An interesting feature of the Add Gadgets panel is that it defaults to the recommendation category. The recommendation category is different for each user. And in this category, we place gadgets that we think you will be mostly interested in using and adding to your desktop. Because Google Desktop lives on the user's computer, it can create a profile based on what sites you're visiting, what applications you're most likely to use. So then we can recommend gadgets based on your profile. In this case, for example, I use Orkut, so it recommends me an Orkut gadget. So this is a great way, if you build a gadget and you submit it to Google, you are most likely to find the users that will go and use your gadget right away. So immediately target a large audience. So let's turn this off and go back to our presentation. So why would you develop Google Desktop Gadgets? As a developer, you may ask yourself, what's in it for me? Why should I spend time and resources developing Google Desktop Gadgets? Well, one very simple answer is the target audience is huge. So what do you get with that? You instantly reach millions of users. As we speak, Google Desktop runs on millions of computers, and users are running gadgets developed by people like you. Another good reason is they are a great way to distribute your content. You have a permanent presence on the user's machine, and you can, in real time, push content to the users. Once you reach a large user base, then you'll immediately notice an increased traffic to your website. That gives you additional opportunities to recommend more gadgets, or present the user other applications that you have, or show them other products that they may be interested in. But there are more reasons, and I'm going to talk about them shortly. Users in particular like desktop gadgets because they offer them the opportunity to work with a feature-rich UI. Users are used with applications that offer a feature-rich UI And, oops, sorry. And Google Desktop, the Google Desktop API offers a large set of methods that enable you to do stuff like drag and drop, animation, transparency. So there is very little difference between a desktop gadget and a native application. Another good reason is that desktop gadgets offer the users the opportunity to share and communicate. We are offering a communication API that enables inter-gadget communication, and that, in fact, it's one of our most successful APIs. One thing that comes to mind, you can very easily build multi-user games, and I can tell you some of them are really addictive. Third, users like to have simple and quick access to information. Most gadgets fall in this category. We can think of notification gadgets like eBay and Amazon latest and greatest deals, or RSS gadgets fall in this category. Other types of gadgets are any kind of streaming gadgets, for example, radio gadgets or webcam gadgets. On the local system side, you can also have opportunities to organize the information, for example, system notification gadgets or to-do lists. And actually, a very cool gadget would be one that blends local and web information. Additionally, users like to have their content personalized. On the desktop side, actually, you have additional opportunities to do this, to go one step further, and do some personalization behind the scenes, and give the user a gadget that's useful right out of the box. For example, you're running on the user machine, and you can get access to additional information about the user preferences, what web page they're visiting, what kind of applications they're using. So this gives you the opportunity to add personalization to a gadget. For example, an RSS gadget, you can add additional feeds based on the websites the user has been visiting, or for weather gadgets or webcam gadgets, you can add additional sites based on the zip code you detect that the users have been browsing to. Now, let me give you a quick tour and show you why implementing a gadget is really easy. So first thing you should know about a gadget is that it's a zip archive with a .gg extension. So if you really want to know what's inside another gadget, you just change its extension to zip, unzip it, and look at the files inside. But what files should you look at first? Well, let's have a look at a simple gadget diagram. So at the top, we have the UI, the files that hold the UI objects. All gadgets must have a main.xml file. Inside the main.xml, we declare the UI elements. All UI objects have properties which declare their location or appearance and their behavior. We can attach event handlers, and that lets UI object respond to external events. Most gadgets also have an additional view file, the options.xml file, which shows the gadget options dialog. After you're done adding your UI elements, you have to add some code to make your gadget do something. You can have as many JavaScript files as you like. And in the main.xml or other XML files, you just specify the JavaScript, where the JavaScript codes will live. All gadgets must have a manifest. It's a very simple file that describes gadget and author metadata. If you want your gadget to work in multiple languages, it's a good idea to localize it. You can place all your strings into a strings.xml file, and then for each specific language, it's placed in a language-specific directory. And then the rest of the gadget can contain any other kind of files. So let's see how implementing a gadget is really easy. First, you start with declaring your UI objects and their properties in main.xml. In this case, we have a very simple gadget. that just has a main view. You can think of the view as the main window or the main UI object. And we declare a view with a height of 250 by 150, and in the middle of it, we place one text label. The text label says hello world, and we attach one click, a click handler. When we click on the text label, something will happen. So this is a very simple example, but with the Gadget API, you can really get creative. I'm listing just a few of the UI objects that we offer. All of those can get quite advanced. You can do positioning, rotation with them. They can support drag and drop, all kinds of opacity and visibility properties. And all of them respond to external events such as mouse and keyboard. Next, you have to do your gadget, you have to implement some code so that your gadget does something. In this case, we had an event handler in the main.xml, and we are adding some code to it. Following the good tradition of hello world gadgets, we are just popping up another dialog which says hello developers. Again, if you want to get creative, the Gadget API offers you a bunch of methods from graphics to system and communication, and of course search. And as any good API system, you need some debug methods, and we offer those too. So we did the UI object declaration. We added some additional code, and we can say we're done. We're pretty much done. That's the bulk part of your gadget. What's left to do is some boilerplate code, some steps that are quite mechanical and can be automated, as we'll see later. But let's go to it. So in Programming 101, we learned that it's a good idea to internationalize your gadget and place all your strings into specific files. In this case, we want our gadget to run in French and German. And we create two strings.xml files and place them under specific directories, fr and de. And we're localizing two strings. One of them is the gadget name, and the other one is the hello world string. So Google Desktop is actually running in 29 languages, so there are lots of developers out there that will really appreciate if your gadget runs in their mother language. Then, as I said, all gadgets need to have a manifest. It contains some basic metadata that is used by Google Desktop to do some gadget bookkeeping and display some of the gadget properties. In this case, we show the author, the gadget name, and some versioning. And now we're done. Seriously, we're done. All you have to do is zip the gadget and ship it. So place all the files on the one directory, zip it, and change the extension to .gg, and then double-click on the gadget. The gadget will run on the local machine. You can send the gadget to your friends. If they have Google Desktop installed, the gadget will run very nicely. So it took us about 10 minutes to talk about implement the gadget. Probably will take a little bit longer to write the actual code. We saw that a lot of the code is quite mechanical. All the gadgets have a manifest. You have to fill in some fields. The strings, the localization, it's also not that exciting. And the main.xml file looks like you could reuse some of your older main.xml files. So is there an easier way to start developing a gadget from scratch other than copying another gadget and modifying it? And the answer is yes. You can use the Google Desktop Gadget Designer. It's an IDE, an integrated development environment. It's a free tool that comes with the Google Desktop SDK and lets you very easily experiment with what you see is what you get interface. You can drag elements around. You can go resize them, preview the gadget within the designer. So it's very easy to prototype, debug, and test a gadget. And all the boilerplate code and all the mechanical steps, they happen automatically. We generate the gadget, the GG package for you, and the manifest, and all the other files. So let me give a quick introduction to the designer. so you get an idea of how useful it is. Especially for first-time developers, I recommend to just go play around with the designer. You will see there's lots of information that you can get very quickly without going through all the documentation. It's all a matter of point and click. So by default, the designer opens a homepage that you can specify. You can actually change this, but this is the designer homepage where you get the latest information if we made any changes, if there are new API additions. So let's start with a new project. And as you can see, the designer did almost all of the job for you. It created a gadget structure here. It already has a strings.xml where it plays some default elements like the gadget name, a gadget description, and some about text. It creates a manifest for you. You just have to fill in some fields. Most of them are already pre-filled. It adds icons, and it creates a main.xml and main.js. So main.xml, it's here, and you can just drag and drop stuff. So let me get a little bit creative here. And I added 5 UI elements. So all the UI elements are listed here. You can click on them and go and inspect the properties that are available and all the handlers that they respond to. So that's a great way to go and see what exactly is available and what can you do with it. The main.xml file is automatically constructed. So here you see the UI representation, and here you see the actual main.xml file. You can actually go and preview the gadget. And this is the actual gadget. This gadget is actually running right now within the designer. So we can go and play with those elements, add some stuff in here. This is how the gadget would look like. If you want to change the gadget name, then you would go in string.xml and say new developer day gadget. And there you go. The name has changed. So everything is in here. The only thing left is to add some code to make your gadget do something. And all that code is in main.js. We have one handler added by default. Let me add some tracing code to show you how you can debug your gadget. So we add a simple tracing statement, which is say my gadget is starting, because this code will be called right when you open your gadget. So now if we preview your gadget and you look down here in the debug window, you see every time I refresh the gadget, I get a debug statement. So once you're satisfied with how your gadget looks like and with your prototyping, then it's very easy to build the entire package. You just say build package F7, and you get a gadget created under the project directory. So let's go back to our presentation. Now, we saw that it's very easy for you to prototype a gadget, debug a gadget, construct a gadget. How do you make your gadget stand out? How do you entice your users to install your gadget? Well, you can add more flash to it. You can use the graphics APIs to add drag and drop, transparency. You can use some of the advanced online features, download some streams, download more data for the internet. But what I want to focus on are a few APIs that are specific and unique to Google Desktop, and that are sure to cause your gadget to draw some attention and make it really stand out. And the first one I want to talk about is the communication API. I briefly mentioned it a little bit earlier. The communication API provides inter-gadget communication and allows you to send and receive data using the Google Talk framework. So you build a gadget, you run it on your local machine, and then you want to communicate with your friend who's running the same gadget. The communication API actually allows you that, and some interesting examples of gadgets that you can build are multi-user games. You can play games online with your friends, for example, chess, and one of them is Reversey. We're going to look at it in a moment. Other types of uses are messaging and broadcasting. You can think of creating a social network and broadcast messages to your friends and let them know what you're doing and where you are. So let me do a quick demo. So here I have Reversey. If you're familiar with the game, it's also known as Othello. You have to encircle your opponent's pieces and transform them into your own pieces. So if I go here, then the white circle in the middle will become black. I can play with the computer. The computer is actually pretty good, but let me see if there's anyone online that I can play with. So if I click on this button, multiplayer, it will show me a list of friends that are online and that are actually running this specific gadget. So let's invite Larry here to play with me. Larry is actually sitting right here. He's one of our gadget developers, and one that was the pioneering users of the desktop API, implemented the original desktop search APIs for Gmail and WordPerfect. So let's play. So actually, Larry is pretty good at this and usually beats me really quickly. Oh, so to avoid the public humiliation, we'll stop here. You guys get the idea. It's really fun, and there are lots of games. Go and check our gadget gallery. This is just one example, but you can get really creative with this. So let me show you how the gadget is actually implemented. And what I want to stress out is that communication API is very easy to use. On the sending side, all I have to do is get a list of my friends, see what my friends are online, and then send them some data. And you can put in the data package whatever you want. The gadget is responsible of interpreting the message you sent. So first, I get a list. Does this work? I get a list of friends through the Google Talk.Friends API. Then I just iterate to those friends, and the ones that are online, I show them in that status dialog that you saw. And then when I pick one, I send him a request. Do you want to play a game with me? What's happening on the receiving side? Well, on the receiving side, the gadget is just listening. You set up a talk handler, or what we call it on talk data arrival handler. And whenever data comes in, the other person looks at the data and says, oh, what is this? This is an invitation to play. This is a move. So it responds accordingly. And then data goes back and forth. So here we have, what, 3-4 lines of code. That's all you need to do a communication API gadget. The next API I want to talk about is a query API. So Google Desktop Search maintains an index of everything that's on your machine or everything that you chose to be indexed. And of course, there is an API to access that index. It's a quite powerful API, and you can use it to pretty much query for everything. And why is it a useful API, and why a gadget developer should consider it? Well, in today's world, there is lots and lots of content, and day by day, more content is created, and the easiest way to organize that content is actually not to place it in folders and remember where everything is, but index it. So some good uses for this: everything that has a lot of data and everything that can be very easily misplaced. I can think of photo collections or music collections. Just the other day, actually, I got a new laptop, and I transferred some of my music files from the old laptop, but I don't know where they are. I don't remember what I had. I moved stuff from CDs to laptops. So that's where the query API comes into play. And I want to show you a gadget that actually saved the day for me. I believe this is the gadget. So this is a simple music organizers. Instead of keeping track of where my music is in folders, it allows me to search. So let's search for the music folders I just transferred over. Let's say I want to listen to some rock music. So I put rock in there. As you notice, the query API is really fast. Once you have data indexed, access is instantaneous. And it just gave me a list of artists and then some albums. And of course, I can select some of the songs in here. The purpose of this gadget is not only to let you search for music, but actually automatically create playlists for you. So I want some rock music, and right now there's nothing in my playlist. But if I go and click the little plus button here, then all this stuff is in the playlist. And actually, I can go listen to the music. Now, with the query API, you can pretty much search for everything. So here I was searching for rock, but let's say I want to search for classical. I don't have that much classical music. Just found Beethoven. Or there are other genres out there. Let's say I have any soundtracks. I have The Lion King. I don't know when I purchased that. Must have been a slow day. So it's a great gadget. You can very easily take this gadget and make it a photo organizer. And instead of showing me the list of songs in here, you can show me some thumbnails of the photos on your machine. And then you select the photos that you want it to be shown in a slideshow. So, get creative. Another interesting gadget that actually uses the query API, and you can also find it in our gallery, is what we call the Turing gadget. It works similarly, but does a lot more stuff behind the scenes. It looks at your music collection and also tries to figure out which songs you like most, what songs you played the most lately. It creates a list of those and then goes online to Jambase, which provides an API for you to see where certain bands and artists are playing. So this gadget automatically says, oh, you like U2, Google Dolls, Black Eyed Peas. Oh, let me tell you, they are going to tour in San Francisco on April 17th, and so forth. It's a very popular gadget with our younger audiences. Oh. So how is this all done? What's the code behind the query API gadgets? It's very easy. You just issue a query, use the query API.query, and in this case, we're searching for the Beatles. You will get a result set. It can be really big. On your machine, you may have Beatles songs, but there may also be Beatles articles that you browse on the internet, or emails about Beatles, documents. So we iterate to this result set, and we filter only the media files if we want to listen to songs. And then once you have a media file item, there are specific properties available on media files like artist, album title, and genre, and that's how that playlist was constructed. Finally, an API, another advanced API I want to talk about is the Event API. It also works in conjunction with the Google Desktop search engine. So as we index data on your machine, it all happens real time. The search engine has access to a lot of information. For example, it knows when you visit a new page. It knows when you receive a new email, a new instant message. And you can also have access to that information to the Event API. You can find out when the user receives an email, when it goes to a web page. And based on that, you can provide some interesting contextual information based on the user's actions. One example would be, as the user is browsing the internet and goes to a web page that contains physical addresses, then I figure out, oh, it's an address from New York City, then I can use the Maps API, for example, and show a map of the place. That could be a really handy gadget that, as you're doing some work, it provides you contextual information of what you're doing. How is that happening? You just have to subscribe to events and create an event handler that's called anytime an event you're interested in happens. There's a little bit of boilerplate code that filters out the events you're interested in. In this case, we're only interested in Google Desktop web page events. Whenever you navigate to a new web page, your handler will be called. This is the handler. And once you know that a new web page data has come in, you can get specific properties for that item, like the URI and content. Once you have access to those, you can parse the content and figure out if there's an address in there. So before I go any further, I want to summarize a little bit the event APIs, the advanced APIs. A lot of our most popular gadgets use at least one of them. I've seen gadgets that are using 2. I haven't yet seen one that uses 3, so I'm sure someone here will really get creative and will go ahead and try to implement a gadget using the 3 advanced APIs. But before you get too excited and take on the challenge, I want to talk a little bit about the developer resources available to you and why they're helpful before you go ahead and implement a gadget. The first place you should go to is the Google Desktop SDK. desktop.google.com/dev. There you have online documentation. You can download the SDK, which contains a lot of samples for a lot of the major APIs. The SDK also includes the gadget designer I just showed you. And it has links to pretty much any other places of interest regarding gadget development. Once you look at that, once you play around with the samples and the other gadgets we have there, then go ahead and see what other people are doing. So visiting our Desktop Gadgets developer group, you will get a feel of the challenges other gadgets developers are facing. You can ask questions. We look at the group regularly and respond to questions. You can complain that something is not working. We love feedback, especially negative feedback. You can interact with other developers. Maybe someone is looking into building a gadget similar to what you want to do, has a similar idea. So it's a great place to hang out. Then we have a knowledge base and an FAQ section. It has some very good articles about what you need to do to get started, how-tos, what are best practices when building a gadget. Then we just started a new Google Desktop Gadgets article section about implementing more complex gadgets. What are some of the challenges faced by developers when designing a gadget? If there are gadget developers out there, we invite you to submit articles to the section. Finally, Google Desktop Blog. It's a great resource. add it to your RSS feed and to your notifiers. We post a lot of announcements there whenever we have new samples out, new articles, any kind of gadget development topics. And finally, at Google, we love open source. We open source quite a few desktop gadgets. Go and check them out at code.google.com/gadgets. And contribute if you want to, or modify them, or if you have gadgets yourself and you want to open source them, please let us know, and we'll add them to the directory there. So use all that useful information. You implemented a gadget, you show it around to your friends, they all like it, they say, okay, give this to more people. So what should you do? Well, our recommendation is to actually submit your gadget to Google so that you reach the largest number of users. As I mentioned earlier, when you submit a gadget to us, it appears on our online gadget gallery, and it's also pushed on the user machine and appears in the Add Gadgets panel that I showed you at the beginning of the presentation. Not only that, when your gadget is pushed to the user machine, it's automatically targeted to the users most likely to use it. So your gadget appears in the recommended section, and based on the user profile, it's given a higher or lower rank, and the users that are most likely to use your gadget will see a gadget with a really high rank and will be really excited to try it. The gadget is not only appearing in the recommended section, we also have a little pop-up on the side of the sidebar. Whenever a new gadget comes in, we let you know, hey, it's a great gadget out there. Do you want to try it? And finally, if your gadget becomes really popular, that will give you a chance to make it into our Developers Hall of Fame. So what is our Developers Hall of Fame? I have here a brief snippet of it. It's basically a list of the Google gadget developers that have the most gadgets and the most popular gadgets. Those guys, are from all over the world. They have a passion for computer science and for gadgets. In this page, we have listed their gadgets, a list of their websites. So go ahead, check it out, see what they're up to, send them an email. And we also want to thank them. Without external developers, Google Gadget would not be as successful as it is. So I want to end up the presentation with some key takeaways, in particular for developers. As we saw in the beginning, 2007 was forecasted to be the year of the gadget. And I believe that it will turn out to be the year of the gadget. A lot of content out there is created continuously as we speak. And gadgets are slowly taking over both web pages and the user's desktop. And they are becoming the gatekeepers, the key access points to information. So you as a gadget developer are quite in a favorable position, and the environment for gadget development is quite good right now. Why is that? So on one hand, you have a lot of users that are quite interested in new ways to access information. They want to have a simple and useful way to get information, not to go through a lot of hoops. On the other hand, you have lots of content and easier and easier way to access those content. All the online providers we know have recently added APIs so that you can access the online data. So you have these two sides, and what's missing, the link that's missing, is the gadget developer. And that's where you come into play. And keeping with the theme of Developer Day, you're one of those blocks or the missing link. So go ahead, take advantage of this. Make 2007 your year. Be creative, create some nice gadgets, and get ahead of the crowd. Get a large and loyal user base. Now, why you should use Desktop Gadget? Why I think Desktop Gadgets offer some unique benefits and why that can help you in your quest for more users. Well, first of all, we saw they're very easy to develop. All you need to know is JavaScript and XML, and we offer you a lot of tools to do that also really fast. A lot of the mechanical and boilerplate code is taken out. They're very easy to install. You don't have to worry about issues as installers and distribution. From the user perspective, gadgets are very easy to use, especially desktop gadgets. They look like other client applications, and the resource requirements are actually very low for Google Desktop Gadgets. The incremental cost of adding a new gadget is minimal. So either you're running 1 gadget or 20, the impact on the machine is very small. And finally, we offer you a powerful API with APIs ranging from graphics to system to search to media, also very interesting advanced API like communication and query API. So you can really get creative and build feature-rich designs and feature-rich gadgets. And once you build your gadget, why do you think it's important? So you consider Google Desktop as the distribution medium. Well, when you submit your gadget to the gallery, you have instant access to millions of users around the world, and you also target your gadget to the user most likely to use it. Not only that, you can use gadgets to distribute your content, and once you reach a very large user base, you will immediately notice an increase of traffic to your site. And I don't know how many webmasters out there will complain that more and more users are checking out their site. So it's a very good benefit. And finally, if your gadget becomes really popular, you can become a famous gadget developer. You make it in our Developers Hall of Fame, and then everyone will want to hire you to build their gadget. So with that said, I want to thank you all for your interest in Google Desktop. And the gadget developers out there, I want to ask you to join us for the exciting journey ahead. And I can guarantee you will have a lot of fun together. Thank you. Can you use the microphone, please?
I had a question about security. Do these run in a sandbox? Can you access the file system on the client PC?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, regarding security, do these gadgets run under a sandbox, or can you access the client file system?
So no, they do not run in a sandbox yet. To install a gadget, you actually have to click on a dialog, which lets you know that you're installing a gadget, and we're not guaranteeing exactly what the gadget can do. And once the gadget runs, it can access the file system. Other question?
A couple. One is local and the other is global. On the localization, when you target it to a user, do you target it like Google Local so that you could have a gadget that only goes out to people in a region? And the second one is when you had your strings file, that does strings localization, but it doesn't do image localization. So can you do that?
Yes. So the first question was if we target gadgets to specific areas. If you provide a localized gadget, let's say in French, then all Google Desktop users that have a French Google Desktop installed will see that gadget recommended. So we do push it to specific countries.
What about Mountain View? What about like a town, Mountain View or something like that, like zip code?
So regarding your second question, if you can localize images, yes, you can also localize images. You have to specify where the image, what the image file name is in your string.xml. So if you specify French desktop image, then that image will be loaded. So you can completely localize your gadget. Cool. I'm told to finish here. So we're available outside, and we have a desktop booth where you can answer more questions.